Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode on history. And today we'll be talking about the Amritsar massacre. To understand this better, let's go through the timeline once again. So, where is the Amritsar massacre? It's over here. It occurred in the year 1919. And if you see on the timeline, there are three events that took place in the same year. In 1919, the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms were also released. In 1919, the Rowlatt Act was also passed, and immediately after the passing of the Rowlatt Act, the Amritsar massacre took place. Okay, so in order to understand the Amritsar massacre, one has to be well aware of what the Rowlatt Act was. Now, moving on with the Amritsar massacre. Okay, so there were dry strikes and demonstrations going on all over India against the Rowlatt Act. Just to give you a small summary, what was the Rowlatt Act? When Justice Rowlatt had come up with his recommendations, and those recommendations were accepted by the Viceroy of India, and those recommendations included arresting a person without any trial, putting a person into detention without giving that person the right to bail himself or herself out, and the provincial government having the right to order the people where to live and where not to. So this led to agitation over India. There were strikes, demonstrations. Gandhi had started off a non-cooperation movement, and hartals were organized everywhere. Jinnah had resigned from the Legislative Council. Then the British government, on the other hand, tried to ban anything which is anti-British. All anti-British publications were banned, and all sorts of public meetings which were being held on a large scale were also being banned. Then this led to further unrest, especially in the province of Punjab, and we see that early in the early part of 1919, two nationalist leaders they were deported from India, and they were Dr. Satyapal, Dr. Kichliu. This led to further violence. On 10th of April 1919, rioting began in Amritsar, a place in Punjab, and two banks were attacked, whereas five Europeans were also killed. Now, because of all of this that was happening in Punjab, martial law was declared in Punjab, and General Dyer, who was the person to oversee the affairs there, he banned all the public meetings in Punjab. Despite this, around 20,000 people gathered together in Jallianwala Bagh, which is in Amritsar, and they were all unarmed, and they had gathered to just voice their concern and their displeasure to the Rowlatt Act recommendations. And it was actually a peaceful demonstration. Despite this, something very horrendous happened. So the park or the bagh, it was surrounded by a 5 feet tall wall, and the entrances and the exit, gateways, they were very narrow. Around 20,000 people gathered inside. They were all unarmed. It was a non-violent mob, but General Dyer, because of his anger on this gathering, because he had banned all the public gatherings, but despite of that, people gathered together, so he ordered his troops to fire on them. They fired around 1600 rounds. As a result, approximately 400 people were killed and 1200 were wounded. But these statistics, they're not exact. Nobody knows how many people lost their lives there, or how many people were wounded. A panic was created, because people tried to flee as a result of that firing. People wanted to flee to save their lives, and panic was created, and they started to run in all directions. And the entrances being very narrow, it was difficult for them to escape. So they must have died because of that panic as well. Now, when he was asked why did he do such a thing, he said that he fired to make the people of Punjab obey the British government, and there was no full stop to that. There were other, violent incidents that took place as well. Men were flogged in public, and they were made to crawl on the hands and their knees. And a meeting in Gujranwala was bombed from the air, and there were numerous sentences of death that were announced, and many of the people were put to imprison jails, or they were imprisoned, or they were sent for exile. So finally, the British government, they decided to form a committee in order to investigate as to what had happened in Amritsar. An inquiry committee was set up by the name of Hunter Committee, and the findings of that committee resulted in the removal of General Dyer from service, but he was given no further punishment, and this embittered the Indians. So with this, we conclude. Today we talked about the Amritsar massacre or the Jallianwala Bagh incident. This much is more than enough. It usually comes as a 4-mark question, so you can write or sum up all that we discussed today in your answer. And till my next video, I'm Nida Umar signing off. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.